Hello and welcome back to Oracle TV's Halloween special. My name is Carrie Kirkpatrick and we are having the most incredible show here in the studio in Highgate in North London. We've had two amazing guests so far, Liz King and also TJ Higgs, with all their associated guides. But now we have Kleo K, author, priestess of the goddess, researcher into ancient history and all-time good egg, really. He's a long-term friend and somebody who I've worked with for many years. You collaborated on all of the workshops. We do the workshops together, the goddess enchantment workshops, and also the books, but you have your own books coming out as well. So Kleo, there is so much to talk about. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Carrie. It's very nice to be here.
Now, Samhain for you is a very powerful, magical time, isn't it? Would you like to tell me a little bit about your take on it?
Oh, yes, certainly. So where do you start? I mean, there's so many traditions around Samhain. And I mean, usually you just kind of, people tend to look at it as the end of the Celtic year. Hence also the beginning of the Celtic year once it ends. I do go together after all. So it is a time of new beginnings as well as endings. Now, in those ancient times, the young people in the village are kind of like the young adults and the early teenagers. They'd go round to all the houses and every single house would give them like a branch or something to burn on a bonfire. And they'd take those up to the top of a hill, light a bonfire for the deities. Then when the fire died down, everyone would take an ember from that fire home to light their own hearth fire. Oh. And of course, how do you get a burning ember down from a fire, down to your home, down probably a dark track, pre-street lighting days? What you do is you get your mangel wurzel out.
Right. Your what?
Your mangel wurzel.
Mangel wurzel.
That's a turnip, by the way, a turnip. Yeah. So, and you carve it. But you carve it or you put, you either carve it with a little picture of something kind of scary or you draw a picture on it of something scary, and that's to frighten the demons away. Yeah, basically. So you carry that down and you take that back and you light your own hearth fire from it. Right, and then also you can use your own, I mean, any root vegetable will do. This is pre-pumpkin days. Pumpkins are from the New World, but you can see that tradition carrying on once people discovered pumpkins, which are much easier to carve than a turnip or a large potato. Beetroot were also very popular in England. You know, so these are all good, solid, large root vegetables to carve and carry your burning ember back down to your hearth fire. Now, you then use that, your nice carved turnip, and you put a candle in it, or a coal, and you put that on your doorstep. And that will guide the dearly departed home, because this is a time when they can come to you, and you can actually perceive your dearly departed, your loved ones that have died and gone. They can come back and visit you in your home, and you can communicate with them. You can say things you never got to say. You can ask them things that you wanted to know, and they can give you messages that they've always wanted to give you. So it's a special time of year, and it's not a fearful time of year. It's actually a loving time of year when you can really enjoy the company of those you've lost.
Oh, that's beautiful. And so initially it would have been different kinds of root vegetables, and is it because they were round so they might look like faces, do you think?
Well, maybe, but they attain the size necessary.
Yeah.
To actually put a burning ember in.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't fit in a radish.
No.
You know.
Could be pushing it with a radish.
Yeah. There's also a Roman connection, because obviously, now this is overlooked quite often, but it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating, because of course the Celtic nations were kind of absorbed into the Roman Empire. Mm-hmm. Some comfortably, some less comfortably, but that's another story.
The Scots never got over it. They never accepted it. I just thought I'd say that.
Well, indeed. But the Romans actually also had festivals that they celebrated around the same time of year, and they became absorbed into the whole Samhain traditions that we know today. So there were two festivals that they absorbed. One was the Feralia, which was actually a similar festival. That was when they communicated with the dead themselves. And in actual fact, they had I believe it was 3 festivals a year where they communicated with their dead.
Really?
Yes, indeed. And in Rome, there are 2 caverns that I know of that were specially used for that purpose.
Really?
And on those festival days, they opened them up and people went in and they had picnics and made offerings to their ancestors, because their ancestors were more present for them, I guess, because they had these festivals of communication on a regular basis.
It sounds really rather like the Mexican Day of the Dead, doesn't
Indeed,
it? You know,
yes,
this idea of feasting and picnicking with the dearly departed, with the relatives. And how interesting that in different parts of the world, those traditions just naturally evolved.
Yes, indeed.
And also, was it always at this time of year, though? You said there was 3...
Yes, and the other Roman festival, and you're going to love this one, Carrie, is the Festival of Pomona.
Oh!
One of our favourite goddesses.
Yes, absolutely.
She of the apple tree and the fruit harvest.
Yes.
And look at the traditions we've got at Samhain with apples.
Apples, absolutely. Apple ducking, toppy apples. Yeah. That's just incredible. So the apple, even though one would, I suppose, at the time of Samhain, it's when the apples have been picked and people are starting to be able to enjoy the fruits, because it's just post the actual harvest. So it's really nice time to be able to enjoy the fruits that have been collected. So this is incredible. With the research that you've done here, I mean, what first drew, is it one particular culture that you've been drawn to, or is it just actually several different cultures of ancient history that you've been drawn to?
Oh, it's several, really.
And how did it all begin?
I don't really know. I guess I was born.
But have you always been drawn to these ancient civilizations?
Yes, I've always been really interested in them ever since I was a child, yeah, certainly.
And have you done any work on past life regression or anything that's taken you back to these cultures?
Well, bits and pieces, but kind of, I'm really more interested in like weaving all the things that I can find out together. And I'm particularly interested in the gods, the goddesses, or should I say the goddesses and the gods, because let's get the order right. And and also, I'm very interested in the religion, the magic, the oracular systems, divination, all of these things. And after all, Carrie, these are the things we teach in our workshops.
It is, because, you know, for those of you who may not know, I mean, there's many different ways of working with the goddess. And what Kleo and I do, what we've been involved with and how we first met is through the Fellowship of Isis. And that's nothing to do with awful terrorists that are on the news at the moment. So I must say I want to reclaim the name to, you know, it's Isis, the Egyptian goddess we're talking about. And what we were talking about with the Fellowship of Isis is that underneath the banner of Isis, there were 10,000, Isis of 10,000 names. So there was all of the different goddesses throughout history. And it was founded in order to bring back the divine feminine. So therefore, people who are involved with the Fellowship of Isis were naturally inclined towards and encouraged towards exploring the different pantheons, the different cultures, the different histories, all of the different goddesses, and not ruling out the gods.
No, of course not.
But bringing the goddesses very much back to life, or reawakening and re-acknowledging them. And so this is how I met Kleo, and over the years we've started to work together with the Goddess Enchantment workshops, which are our own kind of creative take on experiential workshops that really give people an opportunity to do all manner of things, from learning historically about the goddesses and their teachings, their stories, their myths, and how this can be useful in everyday life, through to also how this can work in magical development, psychic development, and then coming together at the end of the day into a very big ceremony where people really get to work with some amazing goddess energy and make things happen. And it's something that we're going to be doing again quite soon, isn't it?
And what we like to do is we like to bring the goddesses to life for everyone. We want to help to create that link so people can work with the goddesses that they are attuned to, that they're drawn to in their daily lives, to effect change, to effect magical change, and to enhance their contact with the divine, which is so rewarding if you've got that in your daily life.
I always feel that working magically with the goddesses, it's almost like a really supercharged insurance policy on your magic, because as we were saying with Tracy, you know, there's very powerful energies at the moment. send your wishes out, but my goodness, be careful you word it correctly, because they're very highly charged right now, and you will get what you're asking for, and if you get it a bit wrong, it's going to turn up a bit wrong. But I always feel that by working with the goddesses as well, by invoking that spiritual guidance, it's not only protective, but I feel it's inspiring, and it kind of guides you as you're doing that magical work. So therefore I feel that it can actually make the magic go to better levels than as human beings that we might imagine.
Yes,
Really.
there's a particularly nice spell in your book that people might like to try actually at this time of year.
Yeah.
This is in Carrie's
Yes,
Goddesses of the Seasons book,
Yeah.
and it's called The Cauldron of Plenty. So Carrie would probably like to explain how it works, because it's rather a special one.
In order to tell you, I do need to just take a little sip of red wine to start off. It's a bit of a clue. I find that one of the best recipes that really suits this time of year is a wonderful mulled wine recipe. And I've been quite sort of well known in the pagan community over the years for coming up with the most ultimate recipe for the mulled wine recipe, and I always feel that this was quite divinely inspired. And so it's a combination of using this recipe, but as you're stirring and creating the beautiful mulled wine on the stove, it's also to bring in your intuition, your affirmations, your wishes and your intentions, and to put them into the cauldron, because your pot on the stove is rather like a cauldron. It's a modern day cauldron, and it's about stirring it around and imagining plenty and abundance and harvest, because we're using harvest fruits to a degree within that mulled wine recipe in the form of apples. We've got our traditional spices of cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves, but also we've got maybe a little bit of orange. Okay, that's not a harvest fruit from this land, but you know, it's something that's readily available, and we've steeped that all with the flavours. But the secret ingredient, actually I'm not sure if I can tell you.
You probably know it is a secret. You've got to buy the book, really.
No, that would just be too mean. It would just be too mean. Okay,
Come to a
okay,
workshop.
guys. Okay, guys. I'm going to tell you, because it is a Halloween special. Is instead of using just any kind of honey or agave syrup or sugar or whatever anyone else wants you to use, no. Dark brown muscovado sugar. It's laced with molasses and it's rich. It's so delicious. You could just eat it from the packet. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you put this in, and this gives it a richness and a strength. You might even need to add a little bit of water just to kind of get the balance right. Don't let it boil, because the alcohol content's going to go, and that just would be a crime. Okay, but then, have we finished? No. We might want to add a little bit of the Italian liqueur Marsala. Put a little bit of that in, very, very nice, and a little bit of Cointreau, and a touch of brandy. And then you will be fine. So whatever you do, don't let that alcohol burn off, and drink that in moderation. Add a bit of water if you want to. But this is the recipe for the mulled wine, which you can stir with your wishes and your affirmations at this time of year, and really visualize that abundance and that beautiful warming energy that you want to come with you for the whole of the winter months and beyond.
It's a lovely, lovely recipe,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
absolutely delicious.
And I do want to now move on to remembrance, because there was one person who really loved that recipe. And he has sadly left his body and passed this summer. This summer, our lovely friend Mark McCann, who I think we might have a photo quite soon to sort of bring up. A friend of ours passed with great dignity and grace. And there's our dear friend Mark McCann, and he got an illness. He had some cancer, and we did our best for him and healed him, but he had the most graceful passing of anyone I've ever met, really. And he has been an absolute treasure in our lives, and even in his passing he brought so much of the pagan community in London together. He was in a beautiful hospice, the Trinity Hospice in Clapham, and I want to give big shout out to the Trinity Hospice, because they were truly wonderful, really amazing place. And if you're ever in a position to offer some support financially or in other ways to the Trinity Hospice, then please do so, because these people who work in these places are like angels on the earth plane, and those looking after people at the end of life are truly remarkable. And our dear friend Mark passed with great grace there, and I would like to take this time really to just honour him with Kleo. Kleo, you were one of his best friends, along with Alan, and Gareth, and
Gingy.
and Gingy,
She was very important to him.
yeah, very important, and many people in the pagan community. He was a bit of a social butterfly, really.
He
Wasn't
was
he? Yeah,
rather, yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And Caroline, and I just want to say personally that I would like to say thank you, Mark, for being this sort of beacon of community during this difficult time. It wasn't such a terrible time in a way, because you handled it so well, and we honour you for that. We respect you for that, and I'm so pleased that I was able to be instrumental in helping getting your book published just before you passed. And we had the book launch in the hospice, and you even drank a few sips of champagne, which I must admit I was a bit worried about. I thought, oh my God, this could all go terribly wrong. But you handled it so well, and you even said, oh, it's good, and I'm just, really admire you for that, because it was a really touching time. And I'd like to say thank you, Mark, for being in my life, for inspiring all of us, and for bringing us all together. And I'd like to hand this over to Kleo.
Okay, this is very nice. So,
You can light it off one of these.
okay. So I'm lighting this candle for dear Mark. Mark McCann, his author's name is Marcus Wolfson.
Yes, this was his pen name, Marcus Wolfson.
And he has had a book out recently, very recently, the Magonia Stone. So this is for Mark, for us to remember him and his gentleness and his kindness and his erudition and his charm and his occasional bombosity, if there is such a word.
He could sometimes be a bit grumpy, but he did it with such finesse.
But it was always fun. With Mark, it was always fun. So this is for you, Mark, and we remember you with great fondness and love.
Oh, wonderful. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you just like to show you just now, and then we'll come back and talk to Kleo a little bit more afterwards. I'd like you to show you the book trailer that I produced for Mark after, just before he passed, actually, and I managed to help get his book published a little bit ahead of time, so that he could see it before he passed. And the book's literally turned up just in time, and I managed to make this little promo for him because I was inspired to do so, and he did manage to see it, which was just, I'm so glad you hung on there for that, Mark. So please do enjoy the book promo. His book is available on Amazon, The Magonia Stone. It's his first published novel, and he spent a great deal of time writing it, and I must admit it's absolutely brilliantly funny. He worked on it for how many years? It was about 5 years, wasn't it?
Oh, indeed, but it was the first one he wrote,
Yeah.
actually. He has since written other ones, but that wasn't picked up on for a while, so it was ready to go. But it wasn't until Terry Grimwood picked up on it and wanted to publish it for him.
Yes, and that's from Terry Grimwood from the Exaggerated Press, published The Magonia Stone. And do support this publishing house, because they do publish unknown authors, little-known authors, but also people who are a little bit more fringe, and they bring them into the spotlight and do a really, really good job of it as well. So do enjoy this. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Carrie. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the Magonia Stone and what it's about.
Oh, yes. Well, I thought, there was an awful lot of comedy in Elizabethan life. We tend to know, or are better acquainted with anyway, the rather sinister sides of it, the complots, the plots, the Catholic threat, the gunpowder plot, things that were going on in the background, conspiracies galore, and they're really rather exciting, and one thinks, gosh, our premier bard, our premier playwright, our premier poet was engaged in all those sort of things. Not obviously, but he was obviously there in the background. And you think, what a strange and weird and wonderful place this would be. But on the other hand, there's another side to it. It was gory, but it was also rather funny. I mean, these strange people were engaged in all sorts of strange plots. I could see the potential for fun in it, and I mean, I suppose any age could be funny if you really worked at it. But magic has its dark side, no doubt. But magic has its funny side as well, and you can see how one could bring that out without it being at all anything to do with literary funniness, or anything like that. In itself, it has a certain humour, certain essential wookiness, which I find funny and which ought to be exploited, I think.
Hello and welcome back to Oracle TV's Halloween special. My name is Carrie Kirkpatrick and I'm joined in the studio this evening by the fabulous Kleo K. We've been talking about everything to do with Samhain traditions. Kleo is an expert in many ancient mystical traditions, the history, the culture of many ancient peoples, and we've also been honouring our dearly departed friend Mark McCann, who wrote under the pen name of Marcus Wolfson. And you've just been watching the trailer for his book, his first novel that was published shortly before he passed. So Kleo, tell me a little bit about the goddesses that you really resonate with at this time of year.
Well, firstly, thank you for saying I'm an expert, because I don't consider myself that by any means, because I'm always learning new stuff. I'm always researching and finding out more, and things weave together. So,
but there is no finite limit to history, is there? I mean, you're never going to be researched it all done.
No.
Of course you're an expert, because you do it with such precision, such detail.
Well, I try.
Okay. The shy expert, the reluctant expert.
That's a nice phrase.
The reluctant expert,
that. Yeah, I like that. Well, Samhain is like a really good time for communing and connecting with two very important key goddesses. There's Hecate, of course, and Persephone.
Yeah.
Hecate has many faces, many aspects, but she is so important for helping you to move forward. She can help to resolve blockages, help to clear them. And she can help you to know when you see truly or when you see falsely. And I think that's a very, very important aspect for all of us, really, because sometimes in psychic work, we need to know what's true.
Yeah.
And so Hecate is the one that will help with that. She is a marvellous goddess, and she also guides people to the kingdom of Persephone. And Persephone, of course, it's Persephone in her aspect as Queen of the Dead, rather than Maiden of Flowers, rather than as Kore.
Yeah.
But
so, could I just interrupt you a little bit there?
Of course.
For viewers who are possibly not so familiar, I know a lot of viewers will be very familiar with the myth of Persephone in the underworld, but some people might not do. So could you possibly introduce that kind of difference there between Maiden of Flowers and the underworld, and why that is?
Persephone is one of the main goddesses with her mother, along with her mother Demeter, who figured in the mysteries of Eleusis in ancient Greece. There are two festivals, the Lesser Mysteries and the Greater Mysteries. The Lesser Mysteries occur in February time, and these are the time when Persephone returns to the earth, to her mother. However, in September, October, she goes down to join her husband. Now, the story goes that Persephone, the maiden, beautiful girl, played in the fields, bright, intelligent, everything that any god could desire. Well, there were many suitors for her hand, but no one was good enough for her mother. Oh no, they all got turned down. No, Hermes, you can't marry my daughter. No, Apollo, you're just not good enough. No, 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 no. That's all they ever heard. And, well, Persephone was a maiden. She was growing up. And now, here's the question. Is it abduction or is it elopement? Her uncle Hades stole her away to his underworld kingdom. Was she seduced by his power? Did she fall in love with her dashing uncle? Or was she stolen away? Did she elope? Was she abducted? Well, hey, that's a question for another day.
He was the god of the underworld, you know.
He was offering her queenship of the underworld.
Yeah, he was offering her to be queen of the underworld. You know what young girls can be a bit like with a bit of a bad boy.
And there's jewels in the underworld. All those jewels, you know, where did the gemstones come from?
I must admit, if it was me, it might have been a tough call.
A palace, a great palace, and an ever-expanding amount of people to rule. As people die, where do they go? The underworld. Well, anyway.
So it wasn't really the traditional story said, oh, she was abducted and raped by him. But in fact, closer research that you did, it sort of like brought forward, opens other doors, is the fact that actually she might have been like, you know, sorry, mother, I'm just really not into your taste of men for me. I'd rather go off with him. Because,
her mother's taste was no man, basically. No one was good enough. But anyway, so she went off to live in the underworld with Hades, where she became the ineffable one, the Iron Queen, she whose name cannot be spoken, she who cannot be depicted in this role very often, apart from during the mystery ceremonies at Eleusis. But Demeter was so upset that her daughter was gone, she searched everywhere, far and wide, and she neglected her duties to look after the fields. So everything became barren. The world was barren, that nothing grew. It was terrible. Everyone was dying. There was no food for anyone, no crops, nothing. So eventually the cries of the people went up to Olympus. And it's said that Zeus settled it. But let's say he did. Because Demeter ran into Hecate, and Hecate said that she thought that her daughter was down in the underworld. Demeter went and beseeched Zeus. And Zeus eventually said, well, I suppose I'll have to settle it. And there was his brother saying, because Hades was Zeus's brother, as I'm sure you all know. Hades was saying, but you promised me, you promised me I could marry her, or marry someone gorgeous. You know, I've been unwed for all these years. Right? And there's Demeter saying, I want my daughter back. I'm not going to let the fields flower anymore until I get her back. Well, Zeus comes up with a solution. He sends down a message to the underworld, and he says, Persephone must come back to the sunlit lands if she's eaten any food. Now, the food in question that she had eaten, they say she hadn't eaten all this time, but it's a significant fruit. It's the pomegranate. And the pomegranate was the fruit that was offered as the marriage fruit.
Seeds, yeah.
So she partook of half a dozen of the seeds, as they say. But as it's the marriage fruit, it's the only significant fruit. So in that custom, the fact that Hades had offered her the pomegranate means it's part of the marriage ceremony. Yeah. And the fact that she accepted it means that she is wedding this man. So again, it throws doubt onto whether this was an unwilling process or not. But as she'd only had a few of the seeds, Zeus ruled that she would stay in the underworld for a few months of the year, the same as the seeds she'd eaten, and be in the sunlit lands for the other times with her mother. So we have the cycle of the seasons.
Yeah, summer and winter.
Indeed.
Wow, and now we are entering into this time of winter. What do you feel as we approach Samhain in 2 days' time is the most prevalent energy or thought that you take with you? Yes,
that's a good one. I think it's really important to commune with your dearly departed.
Yeah.
Say those things you didn't say. Take it as an opportunity to heal the wounds, to know that they are well and that they're still with you and that they will visit you at this time of year, every year. And you can receive messages from them. You can send them messages. You can put some food out. You can put some drink out for them. You can put your little candle in your mangel wurzel, or your pumpkin, as the case may be, and put some water out and a piece of linen for them to wash before or after they eat. And then see it also as the end of the year. So it's a time also of the new beginnings. So take it as an opportunity to let go of what you don't want and decide and welcome in what you do want.
Wow. Now, Kleo, before we go, because we do have another guest this evening as well, I would like you to tell the viewers a little bit about the workshop that we've got planned coming
Oh,
up.
yes, right. So on the 21st of November, we have a goddess workshop. And in that workshop, we will be working with a multiplicity, nice word that, of goddesses, and a few gods, of course, because we don't like to leave them out.
No.
And we will have a
It's you
splendid,
especially.
indeed.
It just gets crossed.
Yeah, we will have a splendid day, and the day is peppered with mini readings for each individual person and an oracle, and we cover the history and the magic and the mystery of the goddesses that we are going to be working with, and then we end with a grand ceremony with champagne and chocolates for all.
Wonderful.
It's a splendid day. Please come and join us.
Well, if you would like to come and join us, that means the spaces are limited and we have quite a few people booked in already. But just get in touch with us at www.oracletelevision.com and we will let you know more details. That's Saturday the 21st of November in North London. Now, Kleo, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you too, Karen.
I think that there's more interviews to be had because there's so much to talk about.
That would be
Not
fun.
least of all, your books that you're working on at the moment, which are called Gods and Goddesses for You, I believe.
A series, indeed.
So thank you once again for being on the show, and we're going to be going to a break, a very short break, after which we're going to be joined by our final guest of the evening, which is Julie Cook, and we'll be seeing you in just a few minutes. See you soon. Welcome to Oracle Television. We are a digital broadcasting channel that specialises in promoting businesses and practitioners within the mind, body, spirit and esoteric world. The future of television is on the internet. The future of social media involves video. At the recent Facebook boot camp in January in London, the main message was that video had exploded in terms of the main way for businesses to promote themselves on Facebook in all areas of social media. The mind, body, spirit industry is now recognised as a growth industry, with many people now growing their businesses and wanting to reach out in the marketplace. Really, our primary focus is to help people who are already out there promoting their businesses by giving them really good video content, helping to get their message out so that we can marry the two worlds of internet television and the mind, body, spirit industry. Two growth industries, marry them together and create a very beautiful hub, a place where everybody wants to come and find the best content. I see video as a language, and really what we like to do when we're working with our clients is tune into them, understand where they're coming from. We need to make sure that the message is exactly right. We can do that for you. We can tailor that message so that when people watch it, you can keep their attention and guide them to your website. We love nothing more than making good promotional videos for other businesses. So if you would like to talk to us about promoting your business or service, then get in touch.